Hello, and welcome to another episode of Other Record Labels. I'm your host, Scott Orr. Thank you so much for taking some time to listen. We have a fun interview today. It's a really great chat with Painted Blonde, which is a label in Wisconsin and a label that I've been a fan of for the past year. And it's been fun for me as a fan to kind of dive into their small catalog because they're a very young label and they're a cassette label, and to kind of follow along with their progress as they grow and learn new things. And so it was really cool to talk to Jason today about what that looks like, because I know a lot of our listeners are in the same space or are thinking about being in the same space. Speaking of that, thank you so much for the folks who are sending me emails. Honestly, it probably happens a couple times a week, people reaching out about the show, and it's so great to connect with the audience and to hear the stories of people who are starting a label, who are trying cool things with DIY vinyl, who are making cassettes, who have questions. It's just such a fun community to be a part of, and I'm really grateful that you guys are listening in and are connecting back. If you want to chat or there's any questions or comments on the show, you can email me personally at podcast@otherrecordlabels.com. And if you're one of these people who are thinking about starting a label or are in the process of starting a label, our website is starting to build up some resources, including an artwork tutorial, as well as our free guide for new labels. And I'm hoping to bring some more resources to that over the next couple of months. And you can get all of that for free at otherrecordlabels.com. I was so happy to discover your label this summer because, and I have to say that your record from Red Pants, which is your band, right?
Yep.
Was like easily in my top 5 albums of the year. I've told you of 2019. I've told you this before. I listened to that record all summer long. I still love it.
That's just awesome. I mean, that right there makes it worth putting out, you know?
Oh, that's good. Just do a record for me, please. Well, it's just, and it's interesting because it's totally subjective because it's not like totally accessible record. It's not like everybody would love it, but it's just one of those times, and I love it in music, where a record just hits the perfect bullseye for, in my personal bullseye. And that was it at the time. Maybe not the same if I heard it now in December, but right then in the peak of summer, the beginning of summer, it just hit that bullseye for me, and everything about it was perfect.
Yeah, I guess that was part of my marketing plan, was the summer sort of sounding album. I don't know.
Yeah, even though it's called
not that there was
Distortion and Snow.
Yeah, I know. Well, I live in Wisconsin, so that's just that's always
summer.
Around.
Yeah, I love Wisconsin. I've never been, I don't think, but I love it because it feels like a Canadian state.
I feel like I often joke that because I'm originally from Oklahoma, and I often joke that after the 2004 election, I drove north and almost made it to Canada, but just ended up in Wisconsin.
Yeah, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Were you happy with the results of that release?
I think artistically, if that's what you mean,
I guess everything. Everything.
Yeah, I mean, everything. It's I feel like it's the best thing I've put out for sure. And I've had a ton of positive feedback, and it's just, I don't know, it's been awesome. I just kind of trying to carry the momentum forward and keep making stuff,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Because I kind of put it out and then was just nobody's gonna listen to this, and then but no, it's done better than any project I've ever released. So
that's great.
It's awesome.
Well, I hope that it, and I hope that it doesn't, it's only been, it's crazy for me. It's an old record, but it's only been 6 months. So
I know.
It's so funny. It still is less than a year old. It still has time to be discovered.
That's true. Hopefully. Yeah. I mean, but it's in these days, it's if I don't know, it seems like things are gone within a week. You know?
Totally. Did you recorded that at home by yourself? Is that right?
Yeah, I recorded like the drums, and we also recorded guitar at the same time. A friend of mine, Elsa, who does the band Images that I released on the label. We recorded the guitars and the drums at the same time.
Oh wow!
At a practice space, but then I ended up overdubbing a lot of the guitars because the place that we practice at, they have like a lot of like kind of Marshall stack like stuff that you just like go in and plug in and play, and like it wasn't really the sound that I was going for. So I did I think maybe there's like 2 or 3 guitars that kind of that stayed on from those like initial recording sessions.
Sure.
And, and then I just like I record on like a 2009 MacBook with like Logic Pro, like Logic Express.
Okay.
from that era. I don't know if you remember that. Like it was kind of in between.
Familiar. Yeah.
It was like kind of like a college grade in between GarageBand and in between Logic, like in the late like 2000, like the late aughts. Like they were. Right. It was like $100 or something like that.
I see.
For that.
Okay.
And it still like does the trick for me.
So it's like limited features?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But I don't do a ton of stuff. Like I try to get like the sound like how I want it as I'm recording it. And I don't add a lot of like plugins or anything.
Okay.
I just kind of EQ stuff to sound to my ears like what sounds okay.
Do you record anything to like Tascam cassette? Yeah,
like the earlier like Red Pants stuff, like the stuff from 2018. A lot of that was done on like a Tascam 414, and a Tascam 424. Because I took a big break making music after we had kids, and then I started this like in-home daycare business. Okay. So there was like a good chunk of like 5 or 6 years where I wasn't recording anything, and I slowly started to kind of like make stuff again. And one of the first things I did was bought like a 4-track just so I could listen to like old 4-track tapes. And then then I discovered my friend Mike has this YouTube channel, this 424 recording, and so I had to get one of those after like discovering his channel.
What's the 424? Is it more channels or less channels?
It is the same amount of channels. There's a lot more like EQing you can do.
Okay.
You can also like bounce the tracks like individually off the machine into your DAW.
Oh, so you have there's a digital component.
So you get like a lot more. You can like EQ it and mix it a lot better. You can also, I think, overall sound you can get a little bit louder. Like I think like a lot of times when you mix like down from like 4 tracks to 1 into the computer, like you definitely like lose some volume.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer side of working with those machines. But they also just like they sound so great. Like I think like my voice like tends to sound its best like whenever I run it through like I'll run it through like a Memory Man, like straight into the tape and like kind of overdrive it a little bit to the tape. Like I'm just like, that's the best my voice is ever gonna sound.
I've tried to do different stems and stuff into the. I have a 414, like the blue one, the 4-channel blue one, and then I have a Porta one, which is I think like the era before the blue one, and it's not working at the moment, but. I've tried to do stuff with it, but other than just like taking your final mix and sending it to that and then sending it back to the computer just so you can get that saturation, I can't do too much with stems just because of timing issues, and the whole process is very arduous.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like whenever I started recording on that thing again, like I was like, oh man, you really got to like make it through the song without like
That's
messing
true.
up and without getting like weird, interrupted by the kids. Like it's like, man, like this is hard.
Yeah, that's right. I guess it is hard to play music the way they used to. Yeah. I have one sitting here. I look at it every day, and it's becoming more and more of just a relic that I enjoy looking at, but they're also like nice little investments too. Like they're worth so much money now. At least where
I know it's unbelievable. Like the how much they've gone up in the in recent years. Like I have like what's the one that you were talking about?
Porta One?
It's on I have one of those like little ones that I got for free at a guitar shop because they were just like, I don't know, like, like this was like probably 10, 15 years ago. They were like, we don't want this thing around here. Like,
wow.
So
I had this Porta One. It's like it's brown and it's a big box. It looks like a briefcase and it sits flat. It's not kind of tilted like the blue ones. But anyway, it's worth quite a lot of money like nowadays. But after I got my first Tascam I got on Craigslist for $30, like maybe about 5 years ago, which was a steal, and it worked perfectly. And then so because I realized that the market was going crazy on these, like for people who knew what they were, I put a little alert on my phone for Craigslist that anytime somebody posted a Tascam tape recorder, I'd get an alert. And so last summer, I was sitting on the patio. We had a couple and their kids over for dinner, and I get this alert that somebody has posted a Tascam Porta One in box, in its original box with the instructions and everything for $20, and they were
crazy.
like 5-minute drive away. And I had to excuse myself from the party.
I would have too. Yeah, totally. Like, I'm sorry, guys. You can stay as long as you want. I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was like, my wife was pretty upset, but it was like, basically, this thing is worth probably like $400 or $500 now.
I know. Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
It actually has a little bit of error. It's jammed right now, but other than that, it's worth a lot. And so I couldn't say no.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can probably even sell it like for parts if it's not
I think so
entirely.
too. I think so too.
But,
all right. Well, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry to our listeners here. This is a little bit of a Tascam tangent here. Let's get into the marketing of this record, because I think correct me if I'm wrong, I think I first came upon your label this summer, and I think it was because you posted this record we've been talking about, Red Pants, that you posted it on a subreddit. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think almost all the releases I've gone there from the beginning and posted the Cassette Culture subreddit.
Okay.
They've been, I mean, that place has been super kind to me.
and it can be like a bit of a crapshoot because self-promotion is usually frowned upon. But I remember like there was a pretty generous response to your post.
Yeah. They're always, I mean, everybody's always been really nice to me in there, and I could see that being the case, but I don't know. It's one of the best places I've found to kind of advertise because I'm working on a shoestring budget.
Yeah, totally.
And I just I've had really great responses from I started this like a year ago. And I posted my first tape there, which I only made like 10 copies of, and did free shipping like anywhere because I was just kind of a shot in the dark type of thing, and everybody was like, "Wait, what? You're doing free shipping? Like, what is this? This is unheard of." And
that's awesome.
Yeah. Luckily, with the future releases, like my friend Mike from Be Cool Cowboy talked me into charging for shipping, because otherwise I would be bankrupt already.
Yeah, probably. And so, I remember people saying, like that they bought it, like right from that post, like people just saying thanks and they bought it. I mean, isn't that true?
Well, I mean, like I've had a couple of people from Reddit that have just like bought every release. Wow. Like from the first one, they sort of jumped on that first one with the free shipping deal, and then every time I release something, and they always buy it within the first like 10 hours that it's dropped. And I think it just like doesn't matter. Like they're just these sort of rabid collectors of cassettes and probably other formats as well. Yeah. But like I think they just like sort of completist collection type of thing. I think it's really cool.
Well, I want to talk about your artwork later on in the episode, because I think that plays a role too. The consistent aesthetic that you have with the label, but I don't want to get there yet.
Okay.
Do you do anything else like that to help get the word out for your releases? Like anything kind of, are there other subreddits that you post on, or?
I have posted a little bit on the DIY labels.
Yep.
And that's actually, I think, where I learned of this podcast. About
cool.
it. Like after I put out my first tape, I think I found this on there, and
wow.
And I've posted a little bit on there. That one just doesn't seem to be as active.
Sure.
But yeah, other than that, not really.
No.
I feel like the cassette one has been sort of pretty welcoming, and I've just stuck with it.
Is there any other like forums you might post on, or anything else that reaching out to any other blogs that have worked for you?
Well, pretty early on, there was this blog called Counterzine, and it's run by Travis, who also runs Under the Counter, which is a tape label.
Okay.
And and he's been really generous and reviewed almost everything that I put out. And he did a premiere for my album, and yeah, he's been really great.
That's nice.
I surf the Twitter and the net as much as I can, and just sort of, and I feel like blogs that sort of like write about the stuff that I'm interested in, I will shoot them an email and I try to be more kind of like not just copy and paste.
Yeah. Same.
And because I know that they're getting a lot of these emails, and some people just like reach out and say thanks, but no thanks. There is I'm blanking on the other one that was really nice, and it posted a Be Cool Cowboy track, and then posted one of my tracks. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm totally forgetting them, but
that's okay.
But they were really kind in their email, and I sent them a tape since they were so nice.
Nice.
And put our tracks on the blog.
Oh, that's great. Do you use Submit Hub or anything like that?
No.
Okay. I was just curious.
Okay, maybe I'm so new to this. Like,
no, that's okay.
I don't even know what that is.
Submit Hub is like, somebody told me about it a few years ago, and I've used it a little bit. Submit Hub is like, we're going to do an episode with them eventually, but it's like a website where you pay money to submit your record to blogs. So blogs get like 50 cents to hear. To listen to like 60 seconds of your song, and then they can choose whether. And there's like YouTubers, and there's playlisters, and there's a lot of like. I think it's pretty good. I mean, there's like a mixed consensus on it, but like the platform itself is great. You can like filter all the way down to like some pretty narrow subgenres, and then submit to blogs that way. And I think in a way, it's kind of like this, I'm going to give you $1 to listen to my song. And I think a blog could make a couple bucks a month doing this, which is nice for them because they don't get anything ever.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm just curious because I don't know if there's like a certain genre that does better than others on that platform.
Interesting. Well, I'm gonna have to look into this.
Yeah, do it. I mean, it could, but what I want to ask you too, because it must be hard when the sound of a record is decidedly lo-fi and rough around the edges, and then trying to shoehorn it into the mainstream press. I feel like, something like Distortion and Snow, it's this basement lo-fi recording.
Yeah.
And then trying to, send that to blogs. I don't know. Is that challenging?
I mean, it's like it's not something that I ever give too much of. Like, I just don't like think about it too much because I grew up listening to like Pavement and Guided by Voices, and like some of the Guided by Voices albums just sound pretty awful to the average human.
That's a good point.
And so it's just like I just have always sort of gravitated to people that record their own music at home, and that's where I'm at, where like with the stuff that I want to put out. And so I don't know, it just like kind of, I hadn't really thought about it, and I think like I know that like like Florist, like this year, like put out that album that she probably like recorded all entirely in her bedroom, and you probably can't even tell. You know?
Right.
And that did great. And so it's, I think I just like with the technology these days, I don't know that it really like it matters where it's recorded and what it sounds like. You know?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I was kind of getting distracted because I remember there was a picture I saw. I think it was Florist. I sometimes get that artist mixed up with another artist, but I think it was Florist. Like posted a picture of their bedroom studio, and there was like a $6,000 compressor in there, like an LA2A. I'm pretty sure. I remember like looking at that and going, and I'm sure it was I don't know if it was a rental or a loan or something, but like, I just looked at that and I was like, holy crap. That's
never mind. She had a full studio in the bedroom.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry. I remembering that picture and I thought it was so funny. Do you, how many records did you do this year? Do you know?
Sorry, that just cut out. Did you ask?
How many records did you do this year?
We did one EP, and then 4 other full lengths.
4 full lengths, okay.
Yeah.
And so what does like 2020 look like for releases? Are you ahead of the game or behind where you'd like to be for planning that out?
I'm kind of like, I'm taking kind of a break through the winter.
Okay.
So we're recording this like in December, and and like, cause you know, I don't know, I just felt like, well, this, from what I've learned from your podcast in particular, is like, you know, like November, December, and possibly January are probably not the best times of the year to release new albums anyway.
Sure.
So I'm taking a break and probably like throughout the winter, just to kind of recharge. And then I'm going to kind of start to put feelers out with the people that I've worked with last year, and see what they're up to, and hopefully get the ball rolling in the spring. I've already talked to a new band that we might possibly do something in the spring also.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Tell me about the origin of the label and like the meaning behind the name and how it all came about. You said it's been about a year or so, but
yeah, it'll be like a year like this week.
Wow. That's amazing.
So like so many other people, like I was putting out, I had done a couple of EPs myself and released them digitally, and I wanted to put out a tape, and I thought it was like time that I had a label name.
Yeah.
And so Painted Blonde, I honestly really can't remember like where it came from. I had an old project years ago, and it was like a song title for like an instrumental song.
Oh, okay.
And
it's a great name.
At the time, I'm sure I was really into Blonde Redhead and probably into Blonde on Blonde by Dylan. So I think I just sort of like put everything together.
Yeah.
Probably just like kind of word association. And
no, it's great. And it's also nice too. Like I want to talk about this at some point on the podcast, but like when you're picking a name, there's something important about making sure that the .com is available and that it's searchable and that, you know, the social medias are, so you have paintedblonde.com, and if you search Painted Blonde, you come up first, as opposed to some label names that are a little bit more generic, and it's hard for them to, so I think it's a great name.
I mean, the only downside is that there's a lot of hair extension products that come, like, and hair dye, and like my Instagram got hacked several times, like whenever I first started out, like by some sort of, I don't know, like people were really after this like blonde thing, I think.
Oh,
like,
wow.
So that was like the downside, but that's calmed down after the first couple of months. That sort of calmed down, but. Yeah, I've Googled myself, you know, and noticed there's a lot of hair stuff that comes in.
Okay, that's fair.
But that's fair. Okay.
That's okay.
If especially if you throw on the tapes or something like that or music,
right?
It comes up.
But
But I don't know. I just always sort of like that name, and I remember the song that I recorded was like extremely lo-fi, like with the dryer is going on in the the background, and so it didn't get its due. So I kind of wanted to bring it back around like 15 years later.
So you started this as a way to release your own music.
Yeah, totally.
Right. Okay.
And then it just sort of like progressed. Elsa, whose Images EP I released earlier this year, like she had these tracks just sort of sitting on her hard drive, and I was like, man, these are great.
Yeah.
Like, let's do this. Like, and then Mike with Be Cool Cowboy was sort of the same way.
I love that record. You sent that download to me this summer, and I listened to it almost as much as I listened to your record, but that was a great record.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, his stuff is just sort of instantly catchy and likable for me.
And so so you're saying, like, we're talking here December 2019, and so you're talking that you started the label around this time, and so Images was that in January? Like,
I think it didn't come out until like February, March.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Be Cool Cowboy, when was that?
I think around April.
Okay.
It was pretty quick turnaround.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
I was already like working on. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Keep going.
Go ahead. Sorry. I was already like kind of working on the artwork like through the winter for both of them at the same time.
Okay.
While they were recording them and mixing them, because Elsa was kind of finishing up the tracks and stuff like that.
Right. And then you did your record, Pen Palindrome, and then Soda Pop this year. Yep. That's cool. So let me ask you about the artwork, because you have this consistent look to every record. How does that work?
Well, that's kind of like a stipulation, that like a sort of challenge to myself is like, can I make the artwork for everybody? And like, if people will allow it. Yeah. And it was kind of like, can I actually like do it and it be like decent quality throughout? And, so I just sort of start making stuff. I make a lot of art all the time.
There is like a consistent look like this, like, and I want people to go to paintedblonde.bandcamp.com and you can follow along, but there is this like consistent look to everything. It's like this mixed media cutouts thing. Yeah. It's very cool.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, that's just like sort of the style that I've gravitated towards. Yeah. Like since I've started like making stuff again, it just kind of comes naturally, I guess, to me. Sure. And so with everybody, I say, because I've got my own like kind of art website, I say, like go and look over that, like, and then come back and say like what do you want me to do? Mm-hmm. And for Elsa, she was like, oh, I like the gold triangles and the elderly woman in this collage. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll do something like that. And, Mike was like, oh, whatever you want to do. So that was like wide open, and nice. With Ava, with Pen Palindrome, she had actually put out an EP, and I sort of incorporated some of the people from her EP, like the artwork that she had for that. I incorporated that into the design of the tape that we did. Oh,
I see. Okay. That was another great record, a really, really pretty record.
I know. She's very talented.
I really think, and I'm biased because I love your label, but I feel like you had a really good first year. If I were you, I'd be stressed about following up another year.
Oh, man. Don't put that on my shoulders.
No, I think I think it's great.
I'll just if these guys send in subpar tracks, I'm going to send them back.
Yeah, you're the man now.
Maybe I'll send them to you to get an okay.
Yeah, please do. So does the band has to be okay right from the get-go with you doing the artwork? Yeah. I'm feeling like, going into like the second year, I'm definitely more open to collaborating. Okay. Yeah. And sort of like opening up a little bit, and even like possibly working with artists, that I've met through Instagram and stuff like that, because that's been sort of the best part of this, is just like meeting all these new people and working with the musicians. So I'd kind of like to open it up and
but yet still kind of keep the aesthetic going.
Well, I mean,
so it'll be interesting to see like how it'll work out.
I'm a huge fan of the consistent aesthetic for any label. It's something I've tried to do and failed, and I just love when it happens and it happens well. And but I've been noticing other labels like Geographic North we've had on the show, how they will shift, like they'll do a consistent aesthetic, but then they'll change that aesthetic every year, or like as a season, like a season of a TV show or something. And totally. So, but then still stay consistent, but just with a new look. So that's cool. I like either way, but I find it really, there's something subconscious and psychological that happens. And when you release Soda Pop towards the end of the year, I saw it and I knew what label it was from. And I knew I had to check it out because of the so it was just this visual association where I may have not have thought for a second, oh, that's Painted Blonde, and I may not have stopped to check it out. So I think there is like, it's a gross term, but there's like that brand awareness or that, a brand association. But I think it's a real thing because it certainly works for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know, I've just shopping in record stores, like just like picking up something just like based on the cover and buying something, like based on the cover is like,
I do that all the time.
So I always wanted to try to like make sure it's kind of a striking image. Yeah. And sort of pops out at you. But
I wish I could remember. I should go back to that cassette culture post and figure it out what it was why I clicked on this self-promotion post of yours back then, because I don't normally do that, but for some reason I clicked on it. Maybe it was the artwork. I don't know what it was, but for some reason I clicked on it and listened to it. But I agree with that about the artwork. I certainly do that all the time, especially now in the digital world where there's no risk. You just see artwork and you're like, man, that looks cool, and you listen to it.
Yeah.
We talked a few weeks back on the show about including bonus items in every order. I think that's something you do. Is that right?
Yeah, I do a lot of little things. Like, with each tape, like I, instead of like kind of numbering on the tape or the J card, like I make like a little tiny piece of art that goes in with the cassette, and so like that stuff is numbered as opposed to the stuff. And then I also do like a little zine that I will throw in with cool. the tape, and that stuff is just sort of like usually like my artwork, or I don't know, like with the Soda Pop one, I always wanted to like make a zine of Polaroid photographs, and I happened to get a Polaroid camera over the summer, so
nice.
So I did that, like sort of super old school DIY, like black and white zine, and then what else?
I got some stickers and buttons.
I throw in some download codes usually. And
that's great.
Buttons and stickers and
Well, I mean, we've talked offline about this, but like the precipice of talking about download codes and the benefit of download codes came from you, and when I was talking with Top Shelf about it was really enlightening, because how you included these download codes with the Red Pants record, and then that just kind of opened me up to other artists. And I think because you have a consistent sound to the label, whether you think you do or not, but I kind of feel like you do, it's pretty likely that I'm going to enjoy the other artists on your label. So when I get a free download code, I think it's just such good advertising to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I picked that up from, I think, Already Dead Tapes did that for me whenever I bought from them. And I bought an album from like Ordinal Records. Like in 2018 or something. And, and he sent, he had a nice note in there, and had some download codes, and I just thought just like that personalization of the package was just like so nice, and so like that was immediately something that I wanted to do when putting together the packages. It's
so funny, and we've gone into this in detail, but it's so funny how you don't really have to spend money. So if you don't want to spend money on stickers or buttons, like even just a handwriting note. It's just crazy to me how some record labels will send a box with the record in it and nothing else. It's such a missed opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure like when you get to like sending out like hundreds of packages a day, you probably would only you almost have to like hire your kids to like write the notes for you or something.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, I haven't gotten to the point of selling 100 records. I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
I'm not there either. So yeah, it's okay.
So take me through the cassette making process. Like, I'm curious, what do you do in house and what do you farm out? How does this process work? Is this something you're committed to? Is it sustainable?
So like 5 out of the 6 releases I've done myself in my basement.
Okay.
I've got about 4 or 5 tape decks that I've purchased, like Goodwill, eBay, Facebook Marketplace type places. Yeah. And I use like old iPods and iPhones because those things, they still work just fine. So I just sort of set them up and do some test runs for because each deck is a little bit different, So
and the speed is different too. Yeah,
so you got to kind of like make sure everything's playing back okay on each deck. And like once it's set up, it's, I sort of do all the taping and covering the tabs like all in one go, so it's all really kind of quick.
Okay.
And I just got to like pop down to the basement and switch out tapes and so a lot of them I can get kind of hammer out over a weekend.
So sorry, when you have like 5 tape decks going at once, are they going off the same iPod? Are they strung together?
No, I've done it. I've tried that, and I haven't had good success with that.
Okay.
I know that people can do it, and maybe I'm just like not a technical wizard.
Okay,
so,
yeah, maybe it weakens it or something.
Yeah, I just do like I've got like all these old iPods and iPhones.
Yeah.
And like you can find like even the iPod touches like pretty cheap on Facebook. If one goes down, like there's probably like a grandma or something that's trying to get rid of it for like $10. But so I have like all individual. It's all individually going.
Okay. So, but I'm just looking at the tapes. They're different color tapes and they have a stamp on them. So how does that work?
So I order stamps through some like rubberstamp.com type website. And so I order individual stamps and I just sort of figured that into the cost. And then I sit down and stamp, you got like the artist name, the title, what side of tape it is, and my logo. So it's like four stamps on each side.
You have an individual stamp for side A, side B?
Yep.
And the logo.
Yep.
I see. Okay, so that's not part of the stamp when you buy it.
Right. So I just have to like order out like the artist name and the album.
And that's not one. That's two stamps.
2 different stamps. Yep.
And how much does like a single stamp like that cost?
I think like $7 to $8 maybe.
Okay, that's great. And then
I mean, once you like figure that if you're doing like 50 to 75 tapes, it's not like it's not as expensive as you think it's going to be.
No, totally.
And I think it looks a little bit better than like Sharpie.
Absolutely.
Which I've done in the past, like there's like no shame in that.
No, but, I know. But yeah, I like a pad print like this. So then, and is that the same for white? Like the Red Pants one?
The Red Pants, I went through National Audio Company.
Oh, okay.
I kind of wanted to see like the process of doing that, and I figured like I would use myself like as the
guinea pig.
Yeah, the guinea pig. Yep.
Okay.
And like to test it out, and I mean, I think the tapes sound great and like it looks great, but like I would have rather had been doing it myself. Like,
really?
In the end. Like,
why is that?
Yeah, like like the J card, like they use like a thinner paper than I would. I use like a pretty heavy cardstock.
Okay, that's
and
nice.
it's like a matte finish that I use, and I just think the artwork looks better whenever it's printed out on it.
Okay.
This is like totally like to me being it's like really specific, but.
No, I agree. I actually agree with you. Did you pay cheaper for this type of cardstock because it is It's very
it's really
thin.
thin. Yeah,
And-
I know.
and I've
Not
done-
that I know of.
Okay.
Like I feel
Interesting.
like that was like the standard whatever they got, and yeah, I just sort of ran into some like unforeseen production problems going
Okay.
through. So it's like it was just sort of I mean, like overall, like it was a fine experience, but yeah, it was just I was sort of bummed by the outcome. Like,
Well,
I think it looks great in the end, but
Yeah, it does. And I've heard a lot of great things about that company, and I think
Yeah.
pretty much everybody uses that company, and they're iconic in the tape world. But what I'm asking you that, whether or not you farm it out, whoever you farm it to, has nothing to do with the factory. It's just whether you do it yourself or you farm it out.
yeah, but yeah, the rest of the releases, even with the pen Palindrome, I did a white ink on that, and
Okay.
that worked pretty well. Yeah.
And you just get like a white stamp pad.
Yep.
Oh,
So
cool.
the brand I think is called Stays On. It's STAZON. And so it's permanent. It doesn't come off unless you have like some sort of alcohol based cleaning
that's great.
supply. Yeah.
That's great. So then the tapes so where are you getting the tapes, and what length of tape are you getting?
Well, I wait until the album is done and until we've got it figured out, side A and side B for
Okay.
the length. And then I've used National Audio Company for tapes. And then recently I tried out duplication.ca.
Yeah, they're from Canada.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
So, it went great.
Okay.
Yeah, I did that with the Soda Pop album.
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah, like, I let everybody pick out what color they want, and then I order them.
And you order it with like custom length.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
So I'm surprised then that it's not just as like how much money are you saving if they're shipping you a tape at custom length? How much money are you saving them to not have them put the audio on it? Is it's significant enough for you to do it at home?
Yeah.
Wow,
it
I
is.
didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like it's at least like $1 to $1.50. I feel like per tape.
Wow.
Like
Yeah, because the
I was
audio
pretty-
part's not that big of a deal.
It's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, because like, especially like I work with like people that record in their houses, and it's more of a lo-fi
Sure.
medium, So, and like I feel like you can really kind of push a cassette, like when you're recording to the tape, like you can really push
right.
the audio,
Right.
and like, and I think that they sound great as they are. But
Well, especially if you have the custom length of time. So as long as you leave a little bit of room. I had a tape
Yeah.
deck once that was moving really fast, and so it got to the end of the tape before the music was.
Oh, that's
But
interesting.
so I had to adjust the speed, but yeah. So but aside from that, but once you have a custom length, I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's interesting. I'm going to have to look into that pricing. And so it was even still cheaper for you to buy the stamps than to have them send you blank tapes with a pad print on them?
So like with the Red Pants, they did everything.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Like they did like the dubbing, the stamping, the J cards, like everything came in. But so my orders, like whenever I order in tapes, I'm just ordering the blank tape, custom length, and
the color of the tape.
And the color of the tape. Yep. And so, it seemed like, it's significantly cheaper. Like even like me going out and printing, at the local copy shop and I put a lot of time into it. So there's like that trade-off of time, but then like I get to oversee every step of the process, and
Totally.
so I don't know.
Well,
It's
the
just,
other-
like, sort of a control freak thing, I think.
The other advantage too, because for my label, I'm not really known as a tape label, but I do like to do tapes here and there. And so that allows me to do them on demand. When you do it at home, you get an order, and then like later that day you make the tape and then drop it in the mail. I kind of like that. Sometimes I'll order like 50 from duplication.ca but other times I'll just make them on demand. And there's something nice about that.
Yeah, that's a nice option to have. I mean, I feel like I never know what's going to happen whenever I drop them. So I always sort of like have them made, like, so I can just be done,
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's such like a step-by-step process that I'd rather sort of just like knock it all out in one go.
Okay. So let me quickly walk our fans through our listeners, because I know that a lot of people make tapes and a lot of people want to make tapes. And I'm personally just really interested in this process because I really haven't figured it out. But so you go to NAC or duplication.ca, you pick the color, you pick the length of tape, the quantity, you order that. Are you also ordering the cases at the same time from them?
Yeah, it depends. Like I've like kind of stocked up on like the clear cases.
Okay. Okay.
Like last year at some point. So I have a bunch of those.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. But now there's all these like fancy different color cases. So I'm sure we're going to be breaking into that next year.
Right.
But yeah, so generally like, so those tapes will come in and I'll kind of test it, get everything tested out. And then, and I have a pretty big work table, like art table down in the basement as well.
Okay.
And so I'll lay out all the tapes and start stamping, and stamp side A and let that all dry, and then flip them over and stamp side B.
Interesting.
And then it's on to dubbing.
And then the artwork, are you printing that at home, or are you getting that?
No, I go out to like just like a FedEx, Kinko's type of place.
Okay.
And I use their like the front of house copiers because I can just go in there and I sort of I don't know if I'm supposed to or not sneak in my own my own card stock. I take it in and
really?
Put it in I don't know if you're supposed to or not, but they never seem to bother me at all. Like I just go in and work on that and print.
So you've got a blank card stock. What size card stock? 8.5 by 11 or bigger?
Yep.
Okay.
8.5 by 11.
And you go to Kinko's or whatever it's called, and you load it in, and then you're copying. How many go on a sheet?
For the J cards that are just like that have, I think like like a couple of folds, I can get like 2 on a sheet.
Okay. But is it double-sided?
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
wow. How do you pull that off and get it lined up?
I kind of allow for like a little extra like kind of bleed area. I guess I kind of allow for that to because I sort of figured that out, like through some trial and error, like, and I will kind of test stuff at home, like I'll kind of print it out at home and see if things are sort of lining up. I just try to make sure that I get like the important stuff, like like the artist name and stuff like that, the label name, like in the right spot
in the middle.
And so that doesn't get cut off.
Do you print like crop marks on it, or do you just put a template over top?
I just put a template over top.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Is that like, I mean, it's fun, but now that you're a year of doing that and you've had a handful of releases, is that something you would dread doing on the next release, or do you enjoy that process?
I think I'm like far enough out of the woods. I feel like towards the end of, like each release, it's like, it gets to be a little bit stressful, Mm-hmm. I don't know if stressful is the right word, but it's a lot of work. And then once it's done, like it's awesome, and then, like I'm already itching to kind of like do another release because I'm like far enough removed from it. It's almost like, I'm sure it's like when somebody has a woman has a baby, like labor is like really hard. And then like you look back through rose tinted glasses and you're like, I want to do that again.
What's that called? There's something amnesia. It's, like you forget the pain and you only remember the nice part of it or something.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I'm already like kind of wanting to do it, but I know that I should probably also kind of take a break through the winter.
Yeah. Well, especially because your winters are so bad.
Yeah, I don't like to leave the house.
Yeah,
at all.
Same. It's snowing right now as we talk about this. So, okay, that's really cool. Well, thanks for sharing that with us, because I know there's so many tape labels out there, and I like to ask how they do it. It's so funny to me that you do, like I was assuming you do all of it at home or all of it away, but it's interesting to hear your hybrid approach. I think that's pretty cool. I wouldn't have guessed that at all.
Awesome.
I wouldn't. Yeah. I mean, I just said I wouldn't have guessed how you did the side A, side B, and that it was each individual stamps. But
oh yeah.
it's very smart. And now you have like a red pants stamp that you can also put on the packaging or on other products too, which is kind of cool. Or not red pants, sorry,
totally.
Painted Blonde, but also red pants. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I use the Painted Blonde stamp all the time. Yeah,
that's
The only downside is that I have a lot of random album names.
Oh yeah,
laying around.
Yeah. Oh well.
I'll work that into like some sort of piece of art eventually.
So are you? I know some.
Somehow.
I know some labels I've talked to. I think Forge Artifacts does this, but when they do a printing of tapes, they give half to the band to sell, so and half the label sells online. How do the bands get any of these to sell at shows and whatnot?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I go up to like half the amount that I make, because I'm just like in it to like kind of make the money back that I put into it.
Sure.
And and like a lot of the people that I've worked with have only wanted, I don't know, 5 to 10 copies.
Oh, okay.
Aside from Ava, who does Palindrome, because she's playing shows all the time.
Right.
So she recently was like, I just sold my last tape, and I was like, well, do you want some more? I can send you some more, because
that's awesome.
I've got some more down here, and like a lot. I kind of like that I'm working with other homebodies such as myself that aren't out playing a lot of shows, and so
I hate those artists that sell records. They're the worst. When you sell out, is that it? I mean, I see a couple of records. The Be Cool Cowboys sold out. Do you do more of them, or do you like to keep it just special and not print it again?
I think, well, I initially, I ended up doing a second run of his release, and then I also did a second run of my release, like my first release. And I think from now on, I'm just going to let it sell out. There's just like, there's something about it like that. I don't know. It feels like it's sort of done, And
don't
like
push your luck.
yeah. And you like, I don't know. You just sort of close that chapter and move forward.
Yeah.
But we had extra tapes for Mike's, and so I went ahead and did more of that. And I mean, there's also something nice about having the stock, because I feel like when I put out a new album, inevitably somebody finds it and then they go back through the old catalog and they pick up like another tape.
That's true. So, yeah, it is good to have. Like I have like 1 or 2 copies of CDs that we released like 9 years ago, and it is funny how like once a year we'll sell like a back catalog CD to somebody or something. It is just kind of nice just to be able to fill that. At the same time, a lot of our peers and a lot of your peers as a tape label like Z Tapes and Forged Artifacts, they have their Bandcamp is full of sold out records, and there's something I think cool about that. It adds a little bit of urgency for the listeners.
It's sort of undeniably like, it's a nice goal to have.
Absolutely. I want to ask you real quick. When a label has such a cool physical aesthetic and presence, what then is the role of digital sales and streaming for you? Does that fall by the wayside, or do you think about streaming or strategize about it at all?
I don't. I'm just like, I'm not a Spotify user myself, really. I do it. Like I do it for myself, and if the bands want to do it, then I'm open to working with them on it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a lot of benefit from it. I've had way more success with people buying downloads like of my album and of their albums than I have with streams. And
sure.
I mean, I don't know. So I'm just sort of still kind of riding that wave.
No, I know what you mean.
I don't know. I've always been more into the physical format and or downloading it and putting it onto my iPod.
The funny thing is if you were to get like 1,000 streams for a song, which is pretty elusive for most people these days, but if you were to get like 1,000 streams, that's still like I mean, people would go crazy with that kind of success, but that's still like less profit than you'd get on selling one tape. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, totally.
it's such a weird thing because I put a lot of emphasis and pressure on streaming, and I think about it so much. But the day you sell one CD or one tape, you're making more money than you've made in streaming all week or all month. You know, so it's such a weird thing. I don't know why we give it so much weight.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know. I just it's funny seeing all these. You know, there's been a lot of people like sort of doing screenshots of all their streams that they've had this year from Spotify and stuff.
I avoided doing that this year. I think. I don't know. Maybe I did, but I tried to avoid it. Yeah.
Well, even like my own playing thing, like I only have like a Chad Van Galen album that I apparently listen to a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm Chad's #1 fan according to my Spotify.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have kids as well as you, and so my Spotify is. I don't use Spotify to listen to music, but I have it, and so it is all of my labels releases, and then Frozen 2 and Kids Bop.
That sounds familiar to me.
So that's it. Looks like I'm listening to kids' music, and then I'm just very narcissistic. Well, I think it's good that you are on streaming platforms at the very least, and when I think of Painted Blonde,
I was talking with I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I mean, I was talking with Sebastian from Soda Pop with it, like when we were kind of starting to organize things, and you know, I was kind of like, I don't know, it's never been like a big thing for me, and you know, he was just kind of like, well, the more places that it exists, the more likely people are to find it, you know.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more with that. So
absolutely,
so it's out there. It's just not something that, you know, I'm not. I don't know anything about like curated playlists. If I could have that job to make playlists, that would be amazing. But I don't know like where to submit that stuff to, and so
stay naive and stay out of it. It's not a healthy place to be.
It sounds like it could be like an algorithm wormhole that I don't want to go down.
Exactly. I remember thinking, because I remember like for Red Pants, I'm not sure if my copy in iTunes is a download code or if it's from Apple Music. It's probably a download code. And I remember thinking, and this is one of the things, I mean, I've preached why it's important to give away download codes, but at the same time, I feel like the amount of times that I listened to your Red Pants record this summer and this fall, like it probably would have given you a couple of dollars had it not been a download code. You know what I mean? Like if it had been pulled from Apple Music, then you would have been paid for all of those individual streams. So on one hand, it's like, I get it. You give away somebody a download code because your tape, I mean, I've listened to your tape maybe 2 or 3 times just because it's more likely that I'm in the car or I'm out for a walk or something. And that's more likely where I listen to your record. And so it was a shame that you weren't getting paid for all of those times. You know, I mean, it'd probably be like 100 times I listened to that record. And so on one hand, I like the download codes. On the other hand, it's kind of sad. It's nice that streaming at least gives people a little bit of money.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I like to think that it all evens out because I have people like that buy the download on Bandcamp for like $10 or something or $15 because they're friends, like longtime friends or something like that, and like things like that, like just like mean more to me. I think like the fact that you're like out there listening to it somewhere is good enough for me.
You're right. But
I also have a full-time like daytime job, and I don't have like this isn't like feeding me, So it's sort of I'm on like a different level than like a real musician, I think.
Well, I think it's so cool, and the people I get to talk to and the musicians that I follow, it's so interesting to hear how everyone has a different journey. They have different strategies and responsibilities, and I think it's what makes this indie world so beautiful is that there is no one specific model to follow. anymore. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, just listening to your podcast, like all of these, it seems like every record label has a different way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
totally.
It's like, and like it was sort of daunting starting this thing out, like, and kind of thinking like, oh, nobody's going to want to buy this stuff, like no one's going to kind of pay attention to this little label. But I don't know, there's people out there for like every little niche, it seems like.
I know it. And really, I mean, you can kind of break down the economics of it too, because it's like, for these tiny little niches, they could probably like survive on like 100 or 200 diehard fans, or like, yeah, even like a small amount of fans,
Absolutely.
paying a certain amount a year. So these niches could actually survive.
Yeah, my next door neighbor is actually like a owner of a record label that was, I think he was a little bit busier like in the late 90s, earlier 2000s, and we have coffee every once in a while. And
cool.
And he has told me, like, I think he actually taught like a music business class at one point, and he said like the first 40 fans, you get those, and then it's like the next is like 400.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like that was kind of like his, and then it's like just beyond that, it's
right.
Like, so
that's a good point.
I feel like I'm just like inching towards those first 40 people.
Yeah. Well,
I think it would be awesome if I could get that many. Then I'm selling out of tapes like almost every time.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think that's great. And we, that was in the episode we did today with Specialist Subjects, where it's like, I think it was with them who have like a membership, and same with Top Shelf. They have like a membership program, and like instantly you sell, if you have 50 people or 100 people who buy everything, then you have to print 200 tapes because the first 100 is already spoken for.
Yeah, that's
great.
It's such a cool way to be. I don't know. That's really cool.
Well, congrats, Jason, on the label. I'm such a fan. I'm definitely one of those 40. And
Scott, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you doing this interview. This has been a ton of fun. And thank you so much for listening. Please check out this label, paintedblonde.com or Painted Blonde, and there's an E in blonde. I think that's always the case. I can't remember. And then paintedblonde.bandcamp.com. Also, check out our website, otherrecordlabels.com, for a bunch of resources, including our free guide and some more stuff coming up over the next couple of months. Thank you again for being a listener. I really appreciate it.